Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. We are the Hologrumps. I'm Liam.
And I'm Colin.
And we're here today to talk to you about 1917, directed by Sam Mendes and written by Christy Wilson Carnes and Mendes himself. And before we start, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you like what you see here, because we may continue reviewing films depending on how comments are or depending on how people react, because we're still experimenting at this stage of the channel, so just stay tuned. So we're here today to talk about a film, not a Trek discussion. We've decided to take a break and do something completely different.
And now for something completely different. So that is 1917. With the Oscars having just happened, it seemed like a good time to get into this movie about the Great War. Don't worry, there won't be any spoilers. We don't want to ruin the movie experience for you. Just a little bit of a preface to that for when the movie starts and where the movie starts.
Set in the trenches of World War I on the 6th of April, 1917, aerial reconnaissance has observed that the German army, which has pulled back from a sector of the Western Front in northern France, is not in retreat, but has made a strategic withdrawal to the new Hindenburg Line, where they are waiting to overwhelm the British army.
The film itself actually did quite well at the Oscars, winning 2 awards, which is no small feat. Roger Deakins won an award for Best Cinematography and the production team won an award for Best Sound Mixing. Having seen the film, we can understand why. They attempted to do something rarely achieved well. A film completed in a single shot. Or in this case, it gave the illusion that it was filmed in a single shot.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of films that have attempted this, like we have The Russian Ark in 2002, directed by Alexander Sokurov, which was recorded in the Winter Palace in one shot, although they did try 4 takes, and this was in December 2001, so anyone out there looking for more kind of one-shot take films, yeah, they're there, and, we'd recommend them.
To my estimation, this film is epic. The sweeping camera angles and beautiful scenery make it one of the most memorable movie experiences of recent years for me personally. The film isn't trying to be something it's not, and honestly, it feels real. You have rotting corpses and rats everywhere. I was completely drawn in. You can see why the film won an award for cinematography. In the few moments I was not in a trance watching this movie, I was wondering, how did they do that? How did they make that shot? What the film lacks in dialogue and exposition, it more than makes up for an atmosphere and tension. It baits you with false foreshadowing and a foreboding fear that at any moment could be the last.
And the sound mixing as well is certainly Oscar-worthy material. At times it almost had this otherworldly feel. There's one particular scene where we have one of our heroes running through the ruins of a city at night with flares spectacularly lighting up the sky. And the music had this type of whimsical feel to it that worked really well. And for me, it was kind of reminiscent to a scene in Kingdom Hearts where you control Mickey Mouse and he's having his last stand, which sounds ridiculous to anyone that hasn't played that game. But it's that type of whimsical feel with all the majesty and everything involved, and it was executed very, very well.
What's most striking about this film is how contained it is. You're never far away from the characters, and despite being in the great wide open fields of northern France or western France, we're rarely given the chance to admire it. Only when director Sam Mendes allows us to, and it can be truly breathtaking.
So it goes without saying that if you enjoy slow, drawn-out dialogue and monologues with our heroes sharing old war stories in close-up frame, this film probably isn't for you. The film is bold, blunt, and to the point. There's no outlandish suspension of disbelief narrative. If you expect certain characters to act as they would from history, you're probably correct. But don't expect this film not to have a conclusion. It doesn't follow the same tack of modern day or many filmmakers of today that just leave everything in ambiguity thinking that it's really clever. The story of our heroes isn't over by the end, but in the context of the film, the narrative has been concluded. You'll leave the cinema satisfied that you watched a story play out from beginning to end, and maybe think back on the experience as an epic journey, much like we did, on par with The Lord of the Rings and the Destruction of the Ring.
And Liam, do you have any criticisms about the film or issues with it?
With filming a film in one take, you're probably going to run into some problems. Like, there was one scene at the start of the film where we're getting much of the exposition for what's going on, and we're walking through the trenches with the characters, and we're just watching their backs for about 5 minutes, or what felt like 5 minutes. And it's really disengaging to watch people having conversations, and we're just looking at the backs of their heads and it's almost like you can't hear what's going on because you can't see their lips, and it's just you lose one of your senses. But it didn't last like that throughout the film, and as well as that, you get used to it. And it was one of the strengths of the film, I think, as it went on. But just at the start, I was just kind of like, I'm not so sure about this, but it worked. Okay?
And it was well worth it because the dialogue in the movie actually had some notable cameos.
Yeah, yes, we got cameos by Colin Firth and Adam Scott, Mark Strong, Benedict Cumberbatch, and, of course, Richard Madden. And the way these characters all interacted, they didn't use the cameos as these people that were going to take up screen time for about 5 or 10 minutes and just, I'm going to impart so much wisdom onto our heroes. And they were just people that were plunked into the film, almost like they were like, oh, we really want to take part in this epic adventure that you're writing, and just give us something to do in it. And that's exactly what they did. It wasn't any kind of scene stealing.
They never stole the spotlight from the main characters, and that's really important when you're making a cameo. Yeah. You don't want to make a cameo in a movie and then all of a sudden the movie becomes about you. It's just, it would be jarring. Even scenes where the main character is actually talking to these bigwigs of Hollywood, you don't feel like you're going to be stuck with Colin Firth for 90 minutes. Not that I have a problem with Colin Firth, but you didn't come here to see him running through the trenches.
Yeah, and on top of that, it kind of worked that they had these bigwig Hollywood people playing these cameos that were always officers. I think all of these cameos were playing officers, and it was kind of that separation between our main cast, which were the NCOs, and the officers who they wouldn't have had a reverence, but the officers would have been up there and the NCOs would have been down there, just like it was in the film. And the other, it's not a criticism, this is more of an observation that I had about the film. It's not for everyone. So this has to be the type of film that you have to enjoy, war films or war documentaries, because to be honest, personally, it wasn't really my type of film, but I wouldn't criticize it because of that, because I recognize the value and the greatness of this film, and looking back on it, I feel like it was definitely something that was worth watching. I just wouldn't really go out of my way to watch these type of films.
I personally, if you're going to go see it, I recommend seeing it with like-minded people, because if you see it with someone who doesn't enjoy the film or won't enjoy the experience, you're going to enjoy it less.
Yeah, don't drag people along that you're not sure whether or not they'd actually like the film, because you're just going to be met with disdain because you made them go see this film. Go with people that would enjoy it.
Or go by yourself if you have the chance.
And go see it in the cinema, because the way it's directed, it is kind of like a play in the sense that it's all one take. There's no...
You almost feel like you shouldn't blink during this movie.
Yeah.
You feel like you're right. You actually feel like you're there. It can take about 12 minutes to settle into that feeling, and there are only a few moments where you break away from that feeling. But while you're under that spell, it feels like you're actually in the movie, and you're this third person following the action, and you're actually involved. At any moment, the characters could turn around to you and say, "What do you think about this?" And you'd be like, oh, I'm not meant to be here. I'm just a cameraman.
Yeah, I feel like it would have been a great experiment in cinema to try and make a VR cinema experience like this, where you're following the characters around, but you could also put a VR headset on and look around at the scenery, which would have been spectacular. And I think in this film, it actually would have worked really well.
Okay, and we're going to end it there. So, if you like what you saw, as always, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and comment below if there's any content you want us to review or discuss. We're going to be back this week with more Picard, so stay tuned. I've been Colin.
And I've been Liam.
Take care.